Hi guys, this is Charisse. Thanks for checking out this episode of Starty Pants. Today I sat down with Carlonda McKinney, founder of Rajo, a customized bra company. We had a really interesting conversation. We talked a bit about what it's like to pivot a company because she just went from one type of technology to another in customizing bras. And then we also had a chance to talk about pitch competitions and what it's like to try to sell an idea to a group of people who might not understand the importance of the product that she's putting together. Let's go ahead and get started. Hi, thanks for checking out this episode of Starty Pants. I'm sitting here with Carlonda, founder of Rajo, and did I say it right?
You did.
Oh, okay,
did.
Good. Okay,
Yes.
Well, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
I'm really excited because one, you have a really interesting story that I really am hoping that a lot of people are gonna appreciate, and then two, just we're just getting started here with Starty Pants. We're just getting started, and when I met you, I was just like, oh my God, please say yes, you'll be on the show.
Well, thanks for having me.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about Rajo and what you're doing?
Sure. So Rajo is a custom fit bra company that we're now using an app to gain measurements to create custom fit bras for our clients. Formerly, so I say Rajo, the business formerly known as Aphrodite, right? Prior to our sort of pivot into this go-to-market approach, we were using a technology called body mapping, which is taking a digital picture and getting the measurements that way. But that's pretty cost prohibitive because body mapping technology and the machines are tens of thousands of dollars per unit. So it's not only cost prohibitive, but it's also geographically restricting, right? So clients have to come to you to buy your product, which if anyone knows anything about how shopping goes today, brick and mortar is kind of not the,
right.
It's not the up and coming.
Definitely
thing,
not.
so.
It's definitely not the wave of the future.
Right. Definitely not. So yeah, that's what we do. Rajo is, we changed the name also from Aphrodite to Rajo because Aphrodite's kind of, again, constricting, right? Like if you're a male, you're not going to look at anything called Aphrodite, but Rajo, it means comfort in Somali. And that gives us room to grow in the future. So right now we're doing bras, but when we get that down, we could do jeans or we could do suits or we could do whatever. And we won't have to change the branding because it just means comfort or something that you like. It has dual meanings there. So yeah.
Okay. Well, so there's two things I want to ask about. One is the idea of pivoting, but I think I'll probably go to that later. How did you come up with this idea to do custom fit bras? And then two, how did you decide that how did you see we should do body mapping?
Right.
And then we can get into the switching to apps later, but I'm just really interested in hearing how you came up with this idea.
So there are kind of phases to this idea, right? So when I was in grad school, I was going to get my MBA at UMKC, and one of my emphasis areas was marketing, the other was entrepreneurship. So for my kind of capstone entrepreneurship course, we had to come up with a business idea and write a business plan, et cetera, et cetera. And I was just kind of thinking of things that I know that people have problems with. Like I wasn't necessarily trying to reinvent the wheel or anything, but I come from a family of busty women, and I know that they all have a very hard time finding bras. And so I kind of started researching, is this just them or is this anyone who's not a certain size? And it turned out,
I was going to jokingly say me too, but that's not been a thing for me. But
yes.
I can tell you, as not a person from a busty family, it is, I think, universal.
And that's what I found out. So I thought initially that it was just a problem for larger sizes. It's different problems. So the larger your size is, the less of a selection you have. So when you're like an A, B, C cup, you have laces and different prints and different colors. When you are D and up, you're relegated to white, black, or nude, and cotton, cotton, cotton. Like that's all that's there. So the original idea was to have a website that just carried a ton of different types of bras for women who had bigger breasts. Well, in researching for that idea, figured out that it's not just women who are larger, it's women period who have issues, and having a large inventory doesn't necessarily solve that, because bras are still created with the same rudimentary algorithms, right? Like it's a cup size to rib cage ratio, and that's how you get your bra size. But if you go to Kohl's, right, and they use your a 36C, okay, but you try, but if you try on 3 different 36Cs in the same store, but they're by different brands, they will all fit you differently.
Oh, okay.
And that's why it's so terrible to bra shop, because you're a 30 whatever in this brand, but in that brand you're a 30 something different, and who can keep track of all that, right? And then you've got vanity sizing, and then you've got, it depends on the materials, and it really is a headache. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. So that's how I kind of came to the conclusion.
It sounds like a nightmare, like I haven't done bra shopping.
Right, and I mean, it's like one of the worst things to do, and statistically, they say anywhere between 65 to 80% of women are wearing the wrong size bra. And then women own on average 12 bras and wear 2 of them. So once we kind of find something that works okay enough, we stick with that. But we're still really settling, right? So found out all of this information, and then we said, okay, well, what's the best way to get a bra that fits? Okay, well, let's get measurements. And then researching how to get measurements, stumbled across this technology called body mapping, which at the time was being used predominantly for men's custom suiting. Right? Of course. So predominantly it was being used for men's custom suiting, and hadn't really had any additional uses at that point. And so we decided that was the most accurate way to get measurements, because there were different companies that made them, and then we decided on a company, I can't remember the name of the company, but they provided the body mappers to the University of Missouri, to K-State, to different schools.
Universities in this region.
Right, because that's kind of, at the time, was thought to be the next wave. And it still might be, but for what we're trying to do, which is make this an accessible thing to everyone, it's not practical. So then that's where the pivot came in.
This makes me think of, I just remember a jeans company. I can't remember which one. One of the big ones,
Lee.
you know, like, did they?
Or Levi.
Yeah. Well, I just remember where they were like, you can come into the store and we'll scan you and you can have like the perfect size jeans or something. This is the same.
No.
Okay.
So
body mapping is not the same.
Similar, but not the same. So
okay.
With Levi, they had this push to get scanned for the perfect jean. And what they were doing is basically measuring you and then telling you which jean was the best for you.
Oh, okay. So not at all the same. Okay.
Not really the same. They were using it more as a measuring technique versus a customization tool.
Okay.
And there are still some, it kind of cropped up for a little bit. It was a thing. And a lot of malls had them where you could go get scanned, and then it would say, go to this store and look for this kind of jean. And
oh, okay. So they weren't going to change their the way they were producing things. They were just telling you which thing would fit you better.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
Right. And so Victoria's Secret actually did a similar thing with the same technology, right? With the body mapping technology. They had it in pilot in a few stores and never rolled it out to the other ones because their execution was horrid. But they were using it as a fitting mechanism. So instead of, if you've ever been fit for a bra, right, you're basically being assaulted with a tape measure. And they say, turn this way.
I haven't, but my friend, I told her you were coming on the show, and she was like, oh my God, this sounds amazing. And then she said, I was like, I mean, it seems like other people would do it. She said, well, when you get fitted at, like, I mean, Victoria's Secret will fit you, but, you know, it's very uncomfortable.
It's very uncomfortable. And, you know, Victoria's Secret versus a more seasoned establishment, right? So maybe if you went into Nordstrom, you're still going to get different fittings because a lot of the employees that are fitting you at somewhere like Victoria's Secret have been fitting bras for as long as they've been working there, right? But then you've got more seasoned women who know exactly, you know, this might pull a little bit more this way or that way. So you still even get a variation of sizes when you do get, you know, manually fitted for a bra. So it's, you know, it could go, standardization is the key here, but customized standardization, if that's like a, if that's a thing, that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, it's like a generalized specialization.
Exactly.
Okay, so you mentioned something. I want to just like real quick get a little more about you personally.
Sure.
What's your sign? No, I'm kidding. You mentioned going to University of Missouri in Kansas City, UMKC.
Yes.
And doing a capstone class. Like, what's your what's your educational background, or like, you know, just a little bit about that would be really interesting.
Sure. So I went to undergraduate. I completed my undergraduate degree at the University of Missouri in Columbia.
Oh, okay.
And it was also a business degree, but it was business management. And it was very, it was fun. It was a good time, but I don't think I learned anything groundbreaking in undergraduate studies. But then when I went to UMKC, I learned a lot about actual startups. And it was not so much through textbooks, but a lot of the professors there, professors in residence, guest speakers, were current or former business owners. And there's a lot that you can glean from people who have been where you're going. I mean, it's kind of like, would you ask for directions somewhere from someone who's never been there? Why would you ever do that, right?
Yeah.
So that...
But I saw it on a map.
Right.
Yeah. No, actually, I remember, like, so I went to... so did you get an MBA?
I did.
Okay.
Yes.
I went there. I got my bachelor's in business at UMKC at the Block School. But I just remember there being so many professors who had started their own business. And then when I ended up going to law school. When I was in law school, people were like, oh, that person went almost straight from going to law school to being a law professor. And people were like, wow, like really impressed. And I was thinking, that would never fly in business school. Like someone who went straight from school to teaching, but like, you know, it's just, it's a different, like it depends on how academic people are and stuff like that. But I just thought that was a like really interesting dynamic, because in business school, like someone who started and failed at 10 businesses and then had one like, you know, one breakout like business would be the person that everyone would be like, I got to get in that class.
Right.
So that's an interesting observation. That's all. Yeah. And anyway, so sorry, continue.
No,
so you got your MBA.
Yes.
And then how long was it before you started Aphrodite, or did you start any other businesses between then?
Well, so I kind of started at Aphrodite during my last semester.
Oh, during the capstone.
Right.
Okay.
But I didn't officially start it. I just kind of wrote the first draft of the business plan. And then post graduate school, I really started kind of pursuing it, because a lot of the response that I got when I would tell people about it, like, oh, I'm working on this project for, it does this, this, and this, women were kind of like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. We need that. Let me know when it's up and running. And then I kind of thought, well, maybe I should take a more serious look at this. And it really is an unmet need, right? And I think it's Toby, don't remember his last name, but he's with iVerify, right? And I went to a seminar that he did, and he made a quote. He said that majority of $1 million or $1 billion businesses, they solve 1% problems. So you find a problem that's so bad for just 1% of the population, and you could have an amazing company. But, you know.
And women are 50% of the population. Or 51, I don't know.
But we're way more than 1%, right?
Yeah.
But even if, you know, I can't say my target market is all women, even though it is. But even if 1% of women are annoyed enough or disgusted enough with the current state of bra shopping, then this solves their problem.
Mm-hmm. So actually, okay, we're gonna take a break.
Sure.
And then you touched on a couple of things just now. One is who is your target market?
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely want to, if you can get into kind of app development, price points, and also I know you've done a couple of business plan competitions and have done some pitching for funding and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to get into some of that stuff after we get back.
Sure.
Great. We'll be right back.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your closet. Still no jobs? Just more stuff? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed, and they're the stuff inside your stuff. Our job is to unlock those jobs, and it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs.
I hope you're enjoying this week's episode of Starty Pants. I wanted to take a minute to make sure that you could find us on social media. Just search @StartyPantsPod on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Also, if you want to make sure that we can continue to make this show, please contribute to our Indiegogo campaign. You can find a link to it on our website at startypants.biz. You can also find links to it on our social media. Let's go ahead and get back to this episode. Welcome back. We're still sitting here with Carlonda. Well, I know we were joking about, I'm not still it's like we get to still be here.
Yes.
So before we went to break, yes. I was thinking, hopefully we'll get to all three things that I mentioned, which is the app development. Actually, I'm not sure if this is what I mentioned. App development, target market.
Yes.
And that's the first thing I want to talk about, target market. And then the business plan competitions, sure. Like seeking funding and what that experience has been like. Mm-hmm. So who is your target market?
So that's kind of a funny question. So of course, like I said before, women, right?
Yeah.
But if we have to break that down, because these are custom pieces, they are not going to be in the cost. They're not going to be a cost competitor, right?
Right.
So our market is the woman who really values quality and really values a fit. So she's concerned with how they fit, how they function, and how they look. Mm-hmm. Not so much how much they are,
right?
Or the brand per se. And women who fit into that are women who are 35 or older and have a significant amount of disposable income. So mm-hmm. Then you say, well, what's significant? Well, that depends. If it's just you, if you're a single woman who's 40, then having a lot of disposable income could mean that you're at about $80,000 or something mm-hmm. annually. But if you're a mom in a family of 5, then obviously your household income would need to be higher mm-hmm. to have the amount of disposable income that we would target, mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And the price point we're looking at, again, because they are custom, is going to be around between the $115 and $130 price range.
Mm-hmm. I'll take 6. No, I'm just
So, sometimes people might say, oh, that might be a lot. But I've actually gotten pretty good feedback on that, and even a good amount of comments that say it should be more. Mm-hmm. Because right now, you could walk into Von Maur out over the park and you could buy a bra for $200 mm-hmm. and it's still just a off the rack bra that may or may not fit you, but it's, you know, brand XYZ with,
Right.
you know, Egyptian silk or whatever.
Yeah.
That's made. So I don't think that the cost will be an issue for the women who really value the fit.
Right. So I'm actually, it's funny that I was trying to imagine, because I didn't want to ask you too many questions before the conversation so that I could be like more into it instead of like a rote, like, and then what did, you know? So when I was thinking about how much would I be willing to pay for like the most comfortable bra? And, you know, I don't, it waxes and wanes. Like sometimes I have a good amount of disposable income and sometimes I don't. But, you know, when you think about what you're willing to spend on a really good pair of shoes.
Exactly.
I would put this in that kind of category where, you know, like, and of course this is like very dependent on a lot of different factors, like definitely recognizing that like not everybody is in a position to be spending $115 on a pair of shoes, but there are a good amount of professional women or women who do have the means and are willing to spend, you know, hundreds of dollars on some of
shoes.
the
Because
like
it's an investment, right? So much like shoes, if you have on the wrong pair, it can cause leg pain, back pain. It can make your feet do weird things, and then you end up having surgeries years later. Same with bras. If you wear a bra that does not fit for years, you will have back pain, you will have neck pain, you will have shoulder pain, you'll have strain, because it sounds bad, but it's really weight, right?
Yeah.
And if it's not properly supported, it could do a lot of harm. Right. So it's an investment, and not only do a lot of women might not have the means, but a lot of women might not see the value in that investment because, you know, for whatever reason, maybe their bras are good enough and they don't have any issues with them, and that's fine. We're more looking for the woman who has had it, right? Who is, I'm over it, I've had it, there's, you know, these things don't work for me. They're sick of the tugging and the pulling and the everything that comes along with wearing an ill-fitting bra. And not only how they might fit, but how they look under your clothes makes a huge difference. It's, you know.
Yeah. And I feel like I realized it so like late in the game. I was late to the game realizing. So price point, target market, that all that stuff's really interesting. What is that like to try to explain? Because this is one of the things that I that I got really excited to hear from you about is what is it like trying to explain in either business plan competitions or if you're trying to get funding, what is that like to explain to a group of people that I imagine, although I haven't spent a bunch of time doing those things, is usually probably a male demographic, like almost probably across the board with people that you're trying to say, here's this thing that when you're talking to most women will understand immediately. Like, yes, how the bra fits is very important. But like, you know, when you're talking to men who don't have to worry about that and don't have to worry about heels, you know, not to say that women have to worry about heels. They like that is a whole thing.
But
we could have a whole
conversation
about whether or not women should be worrying about heels or not. But you know, that just something that they have not spent any time thinking about probably. What's that like to convince them that this actually is a market?
Well, frustrating is the word that comes to mind with that. So in my experience, and I've done a number of business plan or pitch competitions, whatever they call them these days, and most times it's a panel of 3 to 5 judges. And there is never been, in my experience, more than one woman on the panel, if there is a woman at all. It's usually a panel of men, and they're usually very tech heavy or very consumer, like, or B2B. Like there's not anyone in textiles, and there's not anyone in, women's finery or
Right.
intimate wares or anything like that. So when I'm talking about this, I look at the judges and their faces are just blank. It's almost like they're trying to reconcile in their mind that this is really a thing, that, my wife doesn't complain about it. I've never, why would anyone spend that much on a bra? That's a good question that I get. Why would anyone, A, purchase a custom bra, and B, if they were going to purchase a custom bra, why would they ever spend X amount of dollars on it? And
which is really interesting to me. Just now I was thinking about earlier when you were saying body scan technology is almost exclusively used in men's suits.
Right.
That is all.
Right.
I mean, that's really interesting. Why would anybody buy a custom bra when there's an entire industry dedicated to men's custom suits?
Right. So there's two ways that I've been able to kind of counter that. One is to bring up the custom suit. I equate it to that. I say, having a bra that fits how it should is akin to having a suit that fits how it should. When it hits you right, it doesn't squeeze, it doesn't create any unflattering silhouettes. Like, that's what it's supposed to do. My second way around that is to say, call your wife and ask her. Call your wife and ask her if she would buy a custom bra and why. And I have found that the people who do that come back and talk to me and they, oh my gosh, I had no idea that this was such an issue. I'll pass your card along to my wife, let us know when you're up and running, et cetera, et cetera. So it has been a little bit frustrating, but there have been some times that I've been able to get around that, but it's still an uphill climb. It's kind of like convincing someone that someone else needs something that they don't really think they need. Because, that doesn't happen at all these days, right?
So can you tell me a little bit about what business plan or pitch competitions you've done?
Sure. So I've done the Rainier Venture Pitch. I'm not really sure what it's called anymore, but I think it was the Rainier Venture Creation Challenge. And I did that 2 years. I did it while I was in grad school, and then I did it the year following. And both times I made it to the final round, but still got the cockadoodle questions about why would anyone want this?
Right.
Whereas the women who were on the judging panel were trying to convince the other judges that this is really a good idea, right? So I did that one. I did one through.
And I'm sorry,
Sure.
what's the Rainier? Is that was that here in Kansas City?
Yes. That was
okay.
at the first year I did it. It was at the Kauffman Foundation.
Okay.
And then the second year it was at the new UMKC Student Center.
And what made you that was the first business plan competition you did?
Yes.
Did you just like, I don't know. I mean, you were in grad school then?
Yes, I had to do it.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I did it the
and that's
first.
what I was. Were you like,
Yeah.
no, this is a great idea. I need to put myself in this competition, or were you encouraged to do it?
No.
That's what
it was a requirement the first time, and
were you glad it was a requirement?
I
Once
was.
You got done with it, or before?
Afterwards, I was glad. During, at the time, I was kind of like, this is another thing that I have to do that I don't really want to do.
Right.
But made a lot of valuable connections, got a lot of valuable feedback, and made some tweaks, right? And then I did it again and got a little bit better feedback. And then I heard about this program that K-State was doing, which was sort of an incubator. It was like their first year doing it. It was called the K-State Lab, or Launch a Business. And that was a great experience. I learned different techniques that I had learned before about, planning a business and forecasting and things like that. And the culmination of that program was a pitch competition.
Like a pitch day or demo day
Yes.
type thing? Okay.
Yes. And so I did that one. And then I did one at Northwest Missouri State where it was just a pitch competition. It was for their students, much like the one at UMKC was, but it was open to the public.
Okay.
So I did that one on a whim. I actually didn't realize that it was at Northwest Missouri State until the day before.
Oh.
And then I'm like, I've got to drive there for, But
Yeah.
that was a good one. And again, mostly men on the panel, but it was a good one and it produced some really good contacts. So You know, there's kind of this pitch culture, right, in startups, where if you think about it, you've got Digital Sandbox, you've got Launch KC, you've got Techstars, you've got 1 Million Cups. There's all this pomp and circumstance around pitching, but that doesn't always translate to investment dollars. So you could be really great at giving a pitch, but a lot of deals happen not in a I'm presenting to you type of way. So
so when you I want to be mindful of your time and
sure.
But like I would love to hear a little bit about what you plan to do next and how you plan to kind of get into whether it's funding, like your plans for funding, but then also like just your plans as you're moving forward and developing out your your pivot from the body scan technology to an app,
Right.
So that it can be more widely so you can have a broader audience,
Right.
Whichever one of those things you wanna talk about first would be.
Well, they kind of all go together. So as you know, we're kind of in the middle of rebranding. So we've changed the company name, we're getting a new domain, email, all that set up, new logo, getting that together. And so that's kind of step one, like finishing all of the paper stuff, right? Step two is to finish actually developing the app. And we've now got the front, oh, I won't even say front end, but we've got on an algorithm figured out that if you put these inputs in, you get this output. And that output is a pattern. And so we're taking that workflow more or less and putting it into a digital form, into an app. As far as funding goes, I'm really focused on getting as much done without investment dollars as possible. So whether that be through grant funding or trying to bootstrap it a little bit more, because I've done that a lot, I would really like to not take on investment dollars until I actually need to, and when it's more of at a growth point versus starting. You know, because when you pivot, you're pretty much starting all over.
Right.
I mean, you still have your contacts, but you're starting your new company, right? Because it's a different go-to-market approach. So.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you wanted me to ask you about, or that you thought we might get to, but we just didn't?
No, I think we covered a lot of ground.
We did cover a lot.
I think we covered a lot of ground.
And then there's a lot of stuff that we could have probably talked about.
I'm sure.
Gotten into.
I'll come back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, I was going to say that. I was going to say I caught you right at the beginning of this pivot, and then I'd love to get you back on in another like 6 months or 10 months or something, and just hear about how things have been going, and
absolutely,
maybe you're. Well, we can't. I don't know. I'm like sitting here thinking, well, maybe I can, like, do a. Obviously, I can't like. I could just be like, oh, I'm wearing one of your bras and it's great, or something. But like, that's probably the extent of it. Yeah, we'll figure something out about that. And then, just real fast. What's your? Well, just so you know, and so everyone else knows, when we put your episode out, we'll make sure to give everybody your like social media contacts and all that kind of stuff, so that everybody can find you.
Okay.
And start ordering.
Okay. That's being developed now.
Yeah,
getting all the handles and websites and stuff like that. So
cool. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We'll see you next time.